Hello and welcome back to another episode of Iron Maiden-A-Thon, the album-by-album Iron Maiden review series that we have on the channel here. Today we are going into Virtual 11, the 11th studio album from the band and the last with Bayley. Spoiler alert there, sorry guys. You'll get to that in like 30 minutes, who cares. This album, like I said, was the last with Bayley. It's sort of maligned in the Iron Maiden community. It is their lowest selling album of all time. And we'll get to that right after the intro. But first, obviously, because this is a video, we got to do all the YouTube stuff. We are on the road to 100 subscribers. That would be a great milestone for me to get to. I don't know, it's just some ceremonial number. But that just means that there's 100 people out there that like seeing my pretty face on camera. Yes, also, we do have a new background. I put up some new shelves for the media collection. This isn't everything. There's a bunch of original Xbox games and stuff like that there to go on the red pillar that's directly over here. And then also, I cut my hair, so I don't have that long hippie hair anymore. But we'll get to Virtual 11. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you comment down below what you think of this album, what you think of the review series, if there's anything else you want to see. And let's just get straight into it right after the intro. Whatever, who gives a shit? I'm talking about video games. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Welcome back from the intro. We are talking about, of course, Virtual 11. Now, this is one of the only versions of this album in the style that I own. I didn't actually own this album physically for a very, very long time up until I bought this about a month ago. Just for this review series. Don't ask me why I didn't own it physically. I don't know. I bought it off Amazon and I got the weird Digipack version that's not like the other ones I have, so it doesn't look uniform on the shelf, and so it kind of bothers me. But this one looks like a pretty nice release. It's got all the tracks on it and everything, and it has a booklet, and I don't know. I probably wouldn't hate having all of these if they were all in this style, but I do like that sort of normal jewel case with the slipcover of the other albums that I have. So, yep, here's the album art for Virtual 11. It was done by Melvin Grant. This album, obviously, is their 11th. And as you can see up at the top here, they finally cut off all of the little extra bits that were there. They did this style for the logo up until the Book of Souls. Actually, on the El Dorado single, they brought it back. But Virtual 11, the sort of theme around the album was that it was the 11th, obviously, and that there are 11 players on a soccer pitch, which you can see down here in the bottom. There's some chaps playing soccer, and then also it has sort of this virtual reality, virtual-ish sort of goings-on here on the album art, with Eddie as sort of a program gone wrong attacking this guy with the headset on. But let's go into the album here. It was recorded in February of 1998 at the Barnyard Studios in Essex, England, on Steve Harris's property. This was the last album to be recorded at the Barnyard Studios. For the next one, they would go somewhere else. It was released on March 23rd, 1998, just in time, well, not just in time for the World Cup, but my Virtual 11 t-shirt is a small, and being as how I bulked up a couple of years ago, it does not fit me very well anymore, but here it is. Here's my Virtual 11 t-shirt that I own, that I don't get to wear really that much because it is a little small. So we're wearing the shirt that I got at the LAFC Legacy of the Beast World Tour concert, so you got Eddie playing soccer for Virtual 11. They wanted to make a more upbeat and positive record with this one. The X Factor, like I said in the previous review, which you can check out right here, was a really dark and depressing album. It was really, really long. It was just, it was kind of like Saint Anger for Metallica. Not that shitty, but the band kind of just needed to get it out. So they got out all the darkness, all the depression, all of the stuff about losing their friends and losing those relationships and stuff like that. And they just put it out on an album. you can listen to that review or watch that review, listen to that album. It's a great one. But they wanted to get back to more of sort of uplifting, upbeat, sort of not poppy sound, but it's still metal. It's still Iron Maiden. Here's what Blaze Bayley had to say about it. Virtual 11 was a more upbeat album because we survived the X Factor. We were a band, and I felt we were on our way. Blaze got a horrific reaction on the X Factor from a lot of people. There's a couple videos out there of people spitting on him and yelling at him and jeering him in the crowd, and, you know, those people can kiss my ass. So it was in the 90s, whatever. They can't kiss my ass now. But it was like I said, their lowest selling album. This was Virtual 11 was their lowest selling album in their catalog. It was influenced by the upcoming video game that they were making, the Ed Hunter game, which we'll talk about in the next video. The artwork shows the soccer pitch and all of that. It was they did the soccer theming because obviously Steve Harris loves soccer, but also because of the World Cup in 1998. There was no, you know, Iron Maiden didn't play at the World Cup, but they wanted to tie it in with that, I guess. There are no songs on the album about soccer. I think Iron Maiden really just only has Weekend Warrior as their soccer song. They released 2 singles from the album. Some of the songs that I would pick as a single were not these 2. Futureal, the opening track, was the lead single, and, oh, pardon me, that's a dirty lie. It's the other way around. Angel and the Gambler was the lead single. Futureal was the second single released. Steve Harris wanted Angel and the Gambler. Rod Smallwood wanted Futureal as the single, or the lead single. Steve Harris put his foot down, and so they released Angel and the Gambler. We'll talk about that when we get to the track-by-track, what we think of that song. The World Tour was the Virtual 11 World Tour, no fun names this time. It had pretty middling to bad reviews at the time. It's like a lot of albums sort of seen more in a better light these days, but it is not one of their best albums. It is among the lower tier of Iron Maiden albums, in my opinion. That doesn't mean that it's bad, though. The Virtual 11 World Tour did, however, mark a return to the more elaborate stage production with, you know, animatronic eddies and sort of actual stage construction, as opposed to just a backdrop banner and then the band. So they went back to what they had on the Seventh Son of a Seventh Son tour, not sort of the Snow, but a more elaborate stage production. They opened up with Futureal on this tour. They made their first stops ever in Turkey and Malta. This tour actually saw them go to some sort of bigger venues than they were on the X Factor, but not up to the, you know, arenas and stadiums that they were playing beforehand. That would also come again later. 9 out of the 20 songs that they normally played on the tour, they dropped a few, added a few here and there, but they usually got around between 18 and 20 songs on the tour. 9 of them were Blaze Bayley songs, which was good to see if you wanted to see Blaze Bayley stuff, and then they had the classic Iron Maiden stuff as well to satiate, you know, both halves of that fan base. If you didn't like Blaze, but you wanted to see Number of the Beast, if you didn't really want to see Number of the Beast, but you wanted to see Blaze Bayley songs, you got half and half. Blaze Bayley played his final show with Iron Maiden, the final show of the tour, on December 12th, 1998. We'll get more into the aftermath and all of that of the Blaze Bayley era, but let's get to the looking at the packaging of the CD here, so you can see the album art there. You've got the track listing. There's 8 tracks on this album. It's about 56 minutes long. It's a little bit shorter than the X Factor. There's a nice picture of the band looking kind of cool and hellish. There's a picture disc, or the picture on the disc. The backing art is the exact same thing. Why you gotta get lazy? I don't know. Put the single art for something there. There's a lot of cool single art from this album. We've got a booklet, which feels a little bit different than the other ones. This one's a little more glossy feeling. Well, yeah, we'll take a look at it. Very virtual theming. There's a lot of imagery from the video game in the background here with the band and all of that. There's the band with some fucking football club. I'm not sure, but Steve Harris loves the soccer. Iron Maiden loves their soccer. There's Eddie, once again listed. as a member of the band, because he is. There's some credits, and then there's the back advertising Ed Hunter, which is interesting because I am a huge Iron Maiden fan. Obviously, you've been watching these videos. My name is Hunter, so it's kind of a treat to have an album, at least a compilation album in a video game called Ed Hunter. So we'll go to the track-by-track listing here. We'll start off with Futureal, which was written by Steve Harris and Blaze Bayley. It is 3 minutes long. It is one of the shortest songs of this era. It's about being stuck in a virtual reality world. It's a fantastic album opener. It's really just like, it's like Man on the Edge, like on the redo of the X Factor that I'm going to do. I would put Man on the Edge. This song is a perfect way to open this album. It's a perfect way if there's people that were a little wary of the X Factor, that were like, I don't know, there's not that much energy on this album. There's plenty of energy on that album. But this one starts off hard and heavy with Futureal. It's just a really high energy song. I wish I could hear it live. I've seen videos of it live with Blaze Bayley and Bruce Dickinson. The crowd goes nuts. Obviously, Rod Smallwood, like I said, wanted this as the lead single, but Angel and the Gambler won out on that. The single album art, which I'll show right here, shows the cyborg Eddie from Somewhere in Time coming back from the video game Ed Hunter. So that's kind of cool to see that callback to a previous Eddie for it. Derek Riggs actually did a poster, which I'll show right here as well, for the single, which is absolutely strange that they would just have him do a poster and not the single album artwork. The poster looks really cool, as you can see. It could have been album art for this album, as far as I'm concerned. I don't particularly like the album art for this album. It doesn't look very good. The soccer crap seems kind of tacked on, which it was, because Melvin Grant did the artwork, and then they were like, hey, put some soccer crap on it. But just this art is very disorienting. It doesn't look very good. It looks sort of like an Iron Maiden album, but not really. The two styles are pretty contrasting. You know, you've got like the sort of demonic Eddie, and then like the real life, I don't know. I don't really like the album art for this. It doesn't really fit. It looks kind of overly cartoony, as I'm saying, with a t-shirt with Eddie blocking a soccer ball on it, but you know what I mean. So that single album art, or that single poster, I think should have been the album art for this album. Next up, after Futureal, we have The Angel and the Gambler, which might be either a meme or one of the most contested songs on this album from this era. It is by Steve Harris. It's 9 minutes and 51 seconds long, which makes it the longest single up to this point. That record was destroyed by Empire of the Clouds from the Book of Souls, which is 18 minutes long, so nearly twice as long as this song. Unfortunately, I like this song, but it is so repetitive in places. The chorus goes on and on and on and on and on. It's really poppy and upbeat, so it gets that sort of mind frame that they were going for, but it's just too goddamn long and too goddamn repetitive. Like, if I have to hear, so you think I'll save you, so you think you can save me, or whatever the fuck it is, I'm going to kill myself if I hear it again. I'm not going to. But you hear that like 40 times throughout the song, and so there's a single. The single version is a lot shorter. It cuts out sort of an interlude in the middle, and it cuts off some of the fat of the song. But I think that one is a little too short. It cuts off some of the guitar solos, and the guitar solos are really the highlight of this album. The guitar work, no matter what you don't like about Blaze Bayley or don't like about the songs, the guitar work is top notch. The guitars all sound great on this album. The guitar solos all sound great. This song has a great guitar solo from both guitarists. It gets cut off in that single version, like a lot of radio songs do. So I think that there's a pretty decent to great, like 6 to 7 minute song here, where you cut off, half of the 40 times that they do the chorus, even more than that probably. But you keep the guitar solos, so there's some sort of happy medium here that, you could edit together probably and get a really good song. The music video is pretty funny to watch nowadays because it shows off that great 1998 computer-generated imagery, technology. It's based on the Stranger in a Strange Land single, so Blaze Bayley is sort of the cowboy hero, whatever, that walks into the bar. It's sort of like Star Wars in a way, where you have all these different aliens and stuff, and Eddie as the dealer, and he plays a card game against Eddie, and he wins, and then Eddie gets all pissed off. But it's a pretty funny video if you go back and watch it. The story of the song is two characters, a human that's trying to get his life straight, sort of like a rogue kind of character, rogue kind of guy, and then an angel that's sent to help him, and the guy just wants nothing to do with it. I like the song personally, but it does have its flaws. I can listen to it. You might not be able to, but yeah, that's The Angel and the Gambler. Lightning Strikes Twice is our next song. It's the third track by Dave Murray and Steve Harris. It comes in at almost 5 minutes, at 4 minutes and 59 seconds long. It is one of the most uplifting songs of the era, one of the most uplifting Iron Maiden songs that you'll hear. I love this song. It's just basically about never saying never in life. You just, don't say never to say, like, I'm never going to do this, I'm never going to do that. Something might happen where something gets rekindled, something comes back or whatever. You never say never. Like Iron Maiden, you never say never, they will never die. It's hopeful and positive, and it really tells you that you should be kind of like that thunderstorm in life. You should be a lightning rod for people, for positivity, for hope, for light in the world, and it gives off that message pretty damn well. This one, the chorus, if you can sing it, because it's really kind of hard to sing, you will be belting it and screaming it along with Blaze Bayley. It just shows off the power and the fury of his voice. It is perfectly written for Blaze Bayley. There's a reason why Bruce Dickinson didn't sing this song live after he came back. It sort of builds tension like a Hitchcock movie almost. It just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and then it just explodes into the chorus. The chorus only happens twice in the song, and it doesn't come until a little bit later in the song. So you just get this build up to the chorus until it finally explodes, and you get Blaze Bayley screaming out the lyrics. I really like this one. It's one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's one of my favorite tracks from the Blaze Bayley era. The chorus is just impossible to sing. They could have done something a little different where they had Blaze Bayley sing the Maybe Lightning, and then someone on stage, or the backup singer, sing Strikes Twice. But if you can sing it along, then you should, because it's a great one. Number 4 might be, it's probably in the top 10 best Iron Maiden songs ever. And it is The Clansman by Steve Harris. It comes in at 9 minutes and 6 seconds. It is an undisputed Iron Maiden classic. You cannot dispute this. Even the most prolific of Blaze Bayley haters out there cannot deny that this song is amazing. It is one of the best of the era. It is heavily, heavily inspired by William Wallace and Braveheart and that whole story of the Scots getting their independence. It's the best Blaze Bayley song. It's the best 90s Iron Maiden song. It's played live to this day. They played it on the Legacy of the Beast tour. It's even better when they perform it live. It's just a great song about freedom, about liberty, about everything that you can think of when it comes to what you want in life, to be free from oppression and all of that. It is incredibly powerful and incredibly uplifting. It is the best showcase for Blaze Bayley as a singer. And, you go try listening to this one and not belting out freedom with the chorus along with it. It's just a really great song. It's one of the best of the era. You should, if you haven't listened to this one, go for it. Please go listen to it. Next up, we have track 5 with When Two Worlds Collide by Dave Murray, Blaze Bayley, and Steve Harris. It comes in at 6 minutes and 13 seconds long. It doesn't seem that long, but it's a sort of multifaceted song. You have the on the head, on the nose reading of it, which is, we have Earth and another world that are set on a collision course. But you have another sort of meaning that you can discern from it with Blaze Bayley and his career outside of Iron Maiden and his career when he started with Iron Maiden. There are people out there that when you move up in the world, when you get successful like he did, that will just try to drag you down, that will just be jealous and angry about your success. And, you need to learn how to adapt and survive with those kind of people in your life, and you need to get rid of them and stuff like that. But it's a catchy and underrated tune from the era. It's a great showcase of Murray and Yannick Herz's guitar playing of the era. I think that this could have very easily been a single if they would have put more out. Putting out 3 singles for an 8-song album seems like a little weird, but I also probably wouldn't have The Angel and the Gambler as a single. You might have replaced it with The Clansman, but if you would just want your singles to be sort of the radio airplay songs, this one is catchy as hell, and it could very easily have been played on the radio. I just wish that it got played live more. I wish this song and When Lightning Strikes, or Lightning Strikes Twice, I just wish they would have been played live more. It would have been cool to see Bruce take a crack at these songs, but he hasn't. The next song is number 6, The Educated Fool by Steve Harris, coming in at 6 minutes and 46 seconds long. These next 2 songs are not the greatest. I have sort of a personal connection to them. You'll notice that a lot with these. I have a personal connection to Iron Maiden, if you haven't guessed. But The Educated Fool is one that I'm sort of torn on because it is not a great song, but the meaning of the song is really, really awesome. I, like everyone, like the X Factor, found out about this song in college, this album in college, when I was sort of going through that time in my life. So this message of this song is pretty poignant for a college student or somebody who is young or somebody even who's old, because it's all about, as you get older, people expect you to have answers for everything. They expect you to have answers for yourself. They expect you to have answers for what you want to do in life. And sometimes you just don't have those answers. You can have all the goddamn knowledge in the world, but you won't know everything that you need to know. You won't have the answers. You won't be as wise as people think you might need to be. There's always more to life, more in life to learn. You can always learn. You're always learning in life. So it's not really the best track, but that personal connection sort of bumps it up for me a little bit. Also, just like I said before, the guitar work in this song, it just has one of the most like ripping solos of the era of the 90s, because like the 90s, here's a little tangent about how shitty 90s music is for the people that like Slipknot and nu metal and all of that. That stuff is garbage. So you didn't really have solos like that were blistering, where guitar players could really stretch their talents out. You did have some stalwarts of the genre. You know, you still had Halloween making music, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Metallica, I Like Reload and Reload, you know, Shoot Me in the Face, whatever. But you didn't really have these blistering solos that like you had in the 80s. And so this song sort of harkens back to that era where you just have a shredding solo like right in the middle of the song. And just, I'll leave this one off with the lyric from the song of "Time will flow and I will follow." So you got to follow the flow of time. You just got to kind of let time take you where you're going. You might not know everything that you need to know, but you'll get to where you need to go. Number 7 is another one of those weird tracks that's sort of, I would say that this is the weakest track on the album. It is "Don't Look into the Eyes of a Stranger." That's a real mouthful. It's by Steve Harris. It is 8 minutes and 11 seconds long. It's really long. It's just a subpar song and the kind of lower tier of those Iron Maiden tracks that I have a soft spot for. It's overly long, but you know, when you get down to it at the end of it, it rocks fucking hard. It rocks pretty damn hard. It doesn't build up as well as Lightning Strikes Twice. That song sort of builds the tension up until you get to the chorus, and then it explodes. This song sort of builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and you don't really have a payoff for that tension building, and it's a lot slower of a build to get there, so you're kind of just sitting there looking at your watch like, well, when is this thing going to kick into high gear? When it does kick into high gear, however, it does kick into fucking high gear. That's one of my favorite solos of the 90s that I actually wrote down the time of it. 5 minutes and 22 seconds. You can skip to that part of the song and then listen to the rest of it, because you just get your face melted by a solo. It sounds a lot like they got some of the sort of Scottish, sort of folkish-esque tones from the Clansman and sort of brought them over here to this solo at that 5 minute 22 second mark. So tell me in the comments if you hear that, or if I'm just crazy and I'm just attributing something to it. But the last section of the song is worth listening to the rest of the sort of boring build up to it. Steve Harris has kids. He has a couple kids. He wrote this song about being a parent and how you can't really trust any strangers out there, and every person that is a stranger could theoretically be a threat to your child or to your family, so that you need to sort of watch out for that. It's a pretty good message, I guess. I don't know. You shouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't be afraid of everybody, but stranger danger. Not the best song on the album. Not the worst Iron Maiden song of all time. That's still Mother Russia. Number 8, we have a highly emotional track. We have a great one from Yannick Herz and Blaze Bayley. We have Como Estas, Amigos at 5 minutes and 26 seconds. It's about the two sides of the Falklands War, or the sort of Falklands War that wasn't really a war between Argentina and the UK over a land dispute. Slow-paced, but it's really moving, and the lyrics and the guitar tones, and it'll make you feel stuff emotionally. It's about the atrocities of war, so sort of like Fortunes of War, except about this actual conflict. You know what I mean? It's about that conflict, but it also goes deeper than that to just war in general, and how you got to remember those who fought before us, who fought. I am recording this on Memorial Day in the United States, so that's sort of a poignant song to talk about on this day. You've got to remember the people who fought before us. You've got to remember those who fought for your freedom and all of that. But on the other hand, mourning the past doesn't make us any better at the time. You've got to really remember what it means to be right and wrong in the world, and that'll get us to a better place overall. It's a real goddamn shame that this song wasn't played live. I think this song would have been great to hear live. Blaze Bayley has since played it after his tenure in Iron Maiden, but with Iron Maiden it would have been great to see. It's a really, really powerful song. It has wonderful guitar playing. The guitar tones will move you to almost to tears probably. It's the perfect send-off for Blaze Bayley on this album for this era. It showcases the power in his voice. You can really feel it, especially if you sing along with it. And it's just an emotional track. I think it's a perfect fitting end for this album. It's a perfect fitting end for the Blaze Bayley era. And with that, we're done with the track-by-track listing. We'll go into the aftermath of this album. This was the lowest-selling Iron Maiden album of all time. It was the worst track... the worst... what's the word I'm looking for? The worst... charting. There we go. The worst charting Iron Maiden album. It went to number 16 in the UK. It went to number 124 in the US on the Hot 200, pardon me. It was just a bad time for heavy metal. It was a bad time for Iron Maiden. A change needed to happen. They weren't originally planning on making a change. There was a third album sort of in the works with Blaze Bayley, but sort of that miracle came back with Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith. This was the time of reuniting of those 80s bands to get that sort of era back. And they brought back Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith. So Blaze Bayley was fired, asked to leave or whatever. He came into a meeting between the band in January of 1999. And in his interview with Chris Jericho on his podcast, he knew what was going to happen before he came into the room. No one was looking at him. No one wanted to talk to him. Not because they didn't like him, but because they just really... they knew it was going to happen. They knew that they were going to fire him, and they were happy with him in the band. The band liked him, contrary to what some assholes might think. But, I went to go see them, but I saw them at the pub afterward. None of them were sitting with him. Yeah, right, asshole. The band didn't want to see him go. But, Blaze Bayley is very gracious to this era. He's gracious to Iron Maiden. He understood, I think, better than anyone else that, the world needs Iron Maiden, and the world needs Iron Maiden with Bruce Dickinson in the band. He said that himself in that interview. So, I don't hate Blaze Bayley. If you can watch my reviews and you can tell that. I think that this time for heavy metal was just a bad time in general. He led the band through this time. He took the punches. He had a great experience with Iron Maiden. He got a bunch of, songwriting tips from Steve Harris, producing tips from Steve Harris. His next album after this, you could consider the unofficial third Iron Maiden Blaze Bayley album. You can consider Brave New World maybe that, because there are 4 tracks off that album that were originally written either during the Virtual 11 time, or that were conceived after that in that sort of intermediary time between Blaze Bayley and Bruce Dickinson. But Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith did officially return for the Ed Hunter tour in 1999, and then they came back for a new album, which we will get to in the next video. We will get to Brave New World, the what I would consider, besides Perfect Strangers by Deep Purple, the best sort of reunion album. But it's not one of those reunion albums where, you know, they phone it in and they make one really sick-ass single and then the rest of it's kind of there so they can sell albums and tickets. This is a great album. As for Virtual 11, if I'm going to give it a score, it's probably like a 7.5 out of 10. It is not their worst album, but it is not their best. It is not better than the X Factor. There's a reason why it didn't sell as well, because it's sort of not lifeless, but it doesn't really have a purpose going for it. The X Factor has that sort of dark and stormy purpose to it. This one they tried really hard to get upbeat and put up the tempo, and it just sort of fell flat. As for the Blaze Bayley era, like I've said, I really enjoy it. I love these songs. They came to me at a time in my life where I really needed sort of music like this. And so for that, to Blaze Bayley, to Iron Maiden, I thank you for getting me through plenty of hard times, emotionally, mentally, whatever you want, physically. And so I love these two albums. Like I said with the X Factor, if you hate this album, like viscerally, I'm not going to change your mind. But if there's some sort of that glimmer of hope where you might need an extra kick to reconsider, I strongly urge you to reconsider listening to this album again. This one is a little harder to listen to than the X Factor, but it's an Iron Maiden album. At the end of the day, it's better than a lot of other bands' best albums. So, from me to Eddie, from me and Eddie, and of course Blaze Bayley and their music, to you, thank you for watching. We'll get to Brave New World after this. If you were skipping these two because you hate Blaze Bayley as much, please come back. I don't know why you're listening at the end of this video, but please come back for Brave New World when I get to that, and come back for more movie, video game, whatever else content we can get to. So thanks for watching, and I will see you again sometime soon. Sayonara.